A 57-year-old woman charged with sex trafficking her 10-year-old daughter will now serve 15 years in the federal prison system. Maria Lozoya admitted to investigators that she began hiring out her daughter for sex back in 2012 and specifically allowing a Rockport businessman to have sex with the girl. Investigators say the abuse continued for roughly 3 years until the victim spoke out in 2015. Lozoya was later convicted of sex trafficking a minor. She again will now serve 15 years in federal prison and have to register as a sex offender. She'll also have to pay restitution to her daughter.